How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm supposed to be repeating questions for what is he doing this?
So,
This microphone right here? Oh, yeah.
so what I'm gonna do is on off all this. Otherwise, you'll have the hot mic situation. And then which is probably what I would do. So, yeah.
Just turn it off, but I'm not.
You're not talking. Yep. Yep. I know. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
So welcome everybody, and thanks so much for coming this evening. Really appreciate you coming on out. Just so you know, this is we're in a board meeting, community forum format. The meeting's been properly posted in all the normal posting places, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to change my mask. Okay, well, thanks again so much. This evening, truly, what we are here to do is really trying to describe but some ideas, thoughts, some preliminary plans that we have in store as we think about the reopening of the 2021 school year. I'm just going to drop this, I'm far enough away from people. So the purpose of tonight is really truly to get your feedback and your input. It really is. And continuing to talk to our community, talk to our parents, and hear your thoughts, concerns, questions to really help us build a strong reopening plan so that everybody can come through. And truly, our motto is stay safe to stay open. So we really appreciate everybody putting the face covering on and coming out this evening too. So what I'd like us to start though is if we could just kind of move this way and start with introductions so everybody knows who we are.
Yeah, I think Robertson.
I think so.
Bill Spindler. I've been on board for 6 years around there.
For about 4 years. Go to 7, 6, 4, 4. I'm new to school for this year, and I have 4 kids. I'm the award of the district nurse, and as well I have 1 student here at the HBC.
I'm John Yadish, I'm manager of buildings and grounds.
I'm Jim Binney, and I'm the district tech coordinator.
Rebecca Stein, I'm the primary principal.
Jay Posick, intermediate school principal.
Lori Larson, director of special education.
We also have
Sarah Lansky, the 7 innovation coordinator. I'm Abby Kabundi, I'm the primary literacy specialist.
And the other member of our team is Katie Gobig. She's an instructional specialist here at the intermediate school. She is out of town for this evening. So again, thanks again for everybody coming in. A little quick agenda. Again, I've got about a 20-minute quick presentation to kind of talk through some very big points. Most of you probably have seen some of the information that we've shared already, so I just want to kind of go through some of those major highlights. And that's our agenda. And ultimately at the end, question and answer, because that's why I'm here. So the biggest thing that we are driving our planning period is truly the safety precautions and the safety recommendations that are built forward by the CDC, the Waukesha County Health Department, the State Health Department. The number one thing that we are gearing our reopening on is a 6-foot distance. away from students while they are indoors as much as possible. Which means we are going to have to continue to track. Our staff is going to be trained about how do we track close contact versus indirect contact, and we'll get into some of that as well. The other piece that we are marching forward the way it seems, Waukesha County strongly is recommending all schools put together a masking requirement, and what that looks like. We will be talking a little bit about this evening as well. And ultimately demonstrating what mitigation efforts, what are we doing to maintain not only 6 feet in the classrooms, but what else are we doing throughout our buildings and the organization to be able to maintain this idea of stay safe to stay open, additional cleaning, additional recess, whatever it might be, to make sure that we've got a change to make sure that we can do that. Equitable and equal education, whether you want to choose virtual or whether we're face-to-face, 50%, wherever it is, we want to make sure that we maintain that high level of academics, that high level of excellence that you have come accustomed to, and that we continue to work and develop with our staff around this idea of this fall reopening, knowing that some will be virtual, some will be face-to-face, and how do we meet the needs of all learners. Obviously, the social and emotional support of all. You as families are going to need support, our staff is going to need support, and our kids are going to need support. So how do we maintain that high level of social and emotional capacity to really be resilient through this new time that we're going to be moving forward? Family and staff engagement. We truly thank you for being here, because at the very end, when you say, how can I help? It's going to be keep asking questions, stay informed, and we really need that engagement from you guys. This obviously is going to be financially supported from the district too as well. As you hear about, whether it be CARES Act, PP grants, the school district, regardless of how much money we get from the state, will make sure that this year is an outstanding year. We did have a savings from last year that we're obviously moving forward to this year from some COVID savings, but please know that it is the full financial support of the district to make sure that we reopen safely, but also to meet all of the other priorities as well. And the other principle is just be prepared. We have been gearing up for September 1st, literally since probably April. And we've had teams together. We continue to engage our staff, continue to engage you guys, but we just want to be prepared. Hopefully, curveballs don't keep coming. All right, collaboration. Just want to let you know who we're talking to. Every week, I'm on the horn with DPI, state legal councils, other state superintendents, Waukesha County Health and Human Services, the Waukesha County Executive, Paul Farrow, as well as all the weekly updates we do with the Arrowhead Feeder system. So I probably have close to 10 to 15 hours of weekly collaboration with all the different agencies, as well as Gail Ward is on her weekly chats with not only the Waukesha County group, but the statewide group, just to make sure that we're producing a plan that is sufficient, but ultimately building a plan to stay safe, to stay open. And these folks are all helping us do that as we think about collaboration across. Now, first of all, I want to tell you that the school board will be choosing which option we want to move forward with. So nothing has been decided. Next week, August 3rd, we have another school board meeting where we're going to be talking more further in a formal board meeting about what plans we want to move forward with. So I'm just going to briefly outline the 3 plans that we have in front of the board. The first one being 100% full reentry. Again, all of the mitigation measures have been put in place. We have planned accordingly. All of our classrooms, if you walk through Merton Intermediate and almost all through Merton Primary, you will see blue tape on the ground, which marks 6 feet apart. So we are placing furniture there, student desks, chairs. Believe me, the classrooms will look different. Okay? In order to put 18 students in a classroom, we had to pull out an awful lot of furniture. So our number 1 priority, again, is 6 feet apart. So when you walk into a 1st grade classroom or a 6th grade classroom, whatever it is, you may only see tables, chairs, desks, and bookshelves. That's it. We have made steps if we need to move to bigger spaces. For instance, Mr. Posick has talked to his staff. We are going to be utilizing the band room for day-to-day instruction, the choir room, the library, learning lounges, all of our big spaces to make sure that we can spread out 6 feet apart. So we've made the proper accommodations within our walls of our schools to make sure that we can social distance in our classrooms. And as we move through here, we will certainly be working with our staff. You'll hear in a little bit about how many staff professional development days we have, but we will continue to work with all of our students, all of our staff, to make sure that we do the very best we can with that 6 feet distance. And as we think about direct contact, the CDC guidelines are 15 minutes or less of 6 feet, or 15 minutes or less of 6 feet less contact. Okay, and we'll talk more about that as we go there too as well. Another piece is we are moving FIAD outside. Okay, open air, obviously a real easy one, because that way we're going to be utilizing our cafeterias and our gymnasium for lunch as well. 50-50. Ultimately, our parents have told us through our surveys overwhelmingly that if we do have to go to a 50-50 model, again, it's something that the board can decide. You will continue to hear school districts such as Pewaukee, Wauwatosa, talk about a soft opening where only 50% of the students come onto campus at one time. Our number one priority, and we've already created class lists to make sure that this occurs, is we heard very loud and clear that you want to make sure that your siblings are all on the same day. And I get that. And we have done it the best we can. We started at the primary school and moved our way up, and we'll continue to move our way up. But that is a big commitment that drove a lot of our class list recreation, is making sure that siblings are all on the same day. Again, they would come to school, if you're in a cohort that comes to school Monday, Tuesday, that means they would be virtual Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Again, all of your family would be on those days. Or you come to school Thursday, Friday, and you are virtual Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, that is the 50% cohort model. We are going to, and like we've communicated before in the past in our information, that we will keep classrooms together. For instance, if you're in Mrs. Klabundi's second grade classroom, all of Mrs. Klabundi's class will come on Monday or Tuesday. Okay, so that way we don't need to have our staff living in both virtual and face-to-face as less as possible. So we've done that with the purpose aligned as well. Ultimately, if there's less kids in class, we can spread out even more as well. So that's another advantage of the fall reopening. Now, you're going to start to hear other school districts talk about that. Those school districts cannot guarantee a 6-foot distance in classrooms. Their class sizes are such that, in their classroom square footages, do not allow them to put, all 24 of their kids in a classroom 6 feet apart. We're blessed with a small class size of, I think at Merton Primary, the smallest one is 18 or 19, or I'm sorry, the largest is 18 or 19. Yeah, we put the blue tape on the floor, we can put 19 to 20 of them 6 feet apart. Then we get the 100% virtual, okay? Again, you're gonna hear, you've heard of MPS, you've heard of Dane County School, Madison, go to 100% virtual plan. Again, we will have schedules such that, and on our website, and here some other ideas, we do expect live teaching, and lots of it, throughout all of these models. We have created expectations for our staff. The majority of our professional development for teachers will be in the virtual world as we think about entering into the 2021 school year. So this is where our teachers, we have set expectations. We will coach into that, and we have professional development focused around that. We will be outlining some daily schedules as well, if that's a question that comes up. So what is it going to look like if I have a 5th grader? What does it look like if I have a 7th grader? We will outline all of those sample schedules, and we're working on getting those up to our website, hopefully by Friday. Okay, so sample schedules. So in all, we're going to look a little different. 5th through 8th grade, obviously, they're going to continue to follow a schedule. But we can't have a 4th grader and 5th grader in front of the computer the whole time. That's just going to have to look a little different. And so we'll outline some schedules. Both Ms. Stein and Ms. Poston will continue to do that too. We'll push those out as soon as we get those all confirmed. The other piece is we have our staff coming onto campus, and we still want to continue to engage them with some of those final tweaks as we think about that teaching and learning process for them as well. Okay, so on our website, we put up all the mitigation ideas. Again, there's a whole bunch of things up here. And as we take a look at, probably the biggest one that is there is probably the recommendation to move forward with masks for students when they're not 6 feet apart. We're still developing and drafting what those masking rules will look like throughout the school day. Again, we will do this in conjunction with Waukesha County Health Department as well as the other schools to really try to put together a plan that we feel that we can offer to the school board that is in the best interest of everyone involved. We know it's going to be very, very difficult. We've all seen the YouTube and the Facebook stuff about a 5K with a mask and things like that. They're funny. We will work with them, okay? And we're actually going to ask a lot of help from our families too, to practice and to really hopefully get everybody engaged in that process as we think about coming to school September 1st. Again, I'm not sure if it's going to even be a decision. It could be a mandate, but right now it's looking like we're going to be recommending masking students throughout the day in certain areas like that. So, but we're similar to other businesses. We put mitigation. We've got our cleaning steps in there and things like that. But we're all ready to go and stocking up on a lot of stuff as we think about moving forward. Now, the biggest question I get is, Ron, what happens if someone either is in direct contact? What happens if someone gets COVID in my house? All of those scenarios continue to get updated, and we will update those as we get those as well. The biggest thing that I want to emphasize, and I don't need to read the slide, but the biggest thing is as school districts, we are mandatory reporters, which means if I get the phone call from Waukesha County that says Hayden Russ, that's COVID, or Hayden Russ has been traced to a child who has COVID, I need to call, or Neil, Becca, Jay will call and say, I'm really sorry, your child can no longer come to school until said day. It's not an option, it's not appealable, your child will go into virtual learning. That is the biggest thing I can tell you right now, and I'm very sorry about that. I have no control over that. But as we think about it, it's very different than a parent calling you up and saying, hey, you know, you're at my house and I think my kid has COVID and I think you should self-quarantine. Okay, thank you. You can choose to do with that what you want. From a school district, I cannot. Siblings is an indirect contact. They are indirect, which means they can continue on to be observed for siblings.
So even if your kid is not showing symptoms.
If your kid is
It gets tested, and the test comes back negative, you still have to stay home for 14 days.
correct, if you were in direct contact
With a negative test.
with a negative test. Negative. Now, if your child has COVID, all the siblings then go into that direct contact. So having COVID and being direct contact are two very different things. But thank you for clarifying. An indirect contact does not have to self-quarantine. Unless they're showing symptoms, then obviously we start to scoot into a different realm as well. Again, we go through some scenarios. Gail put a very wonderful presentation together that is a combination from a lot of other resources that we got. So again, I please encourage that too as well. The biggest question I get is, Ron, what happens if we travel out of state? Okay. Legal team talked to several people in school districts. We do not have the time or the resources to be the travel police. So unless you travel to a location that is identified as don't go there, i.e. China, Brazil, Japan, but traveling to Chicago is not on the banned travel list. Traveling to Milwaukee is not on the banned travel list. So travel is a family decision, and the school district is not putting any restrictions on that. And at the same time, the school district isn't putting any restrictions on our staff either at this time either, because we're told that that's, you know, there's some laws about after school and stuff like that we got to follow. But that's a big question I get, is what happens if somebody travels out of state or to a hotspot in the state of Wisconsin. All right, transportation. Very quickly, we will be asking all students to mask up on the bus. If they do not have a mask, we will give them one. They will be there. The reason is I cannot guarantee, no one can guarantee social distancing on buses. Okay, we just don't have the infrastructure to all of a sudden double our bus capacity. As you've seen the demographics and seen the graphics across, you can probably put 14 to 15 students on a bus, 6 feet apart. That's it. So as families, we're just being very, very open that we cannot socially distance. We will track with seating charts, because again, it comes down to that tracing ability for us to be able to know who was around who and moving forward with that too. So if you do have the opportunity to take your child to school, feel free. Again, that's completely up to you guys how you'd like to transport your child to school as we think about that too. And we do anticipate the pay to ride program. We know that is very, very important to a lot of our families. So if we have space like we've done it before, we're going to continue to offer that program too as well. Yes.
My son's friend, who lives far from the stay-at-home mom, who would probably find them and ask people to do get off, but don't have to go to that off so that maybe there's space for those that really need it.
Yep. The question was, have we asked our families who possibly can transport, please to transport and really let the bus for people who really need it? As a school district, I can't change that policy, but it would be highly encouraged that if you can bring your child to school, it's less exposure, because the negative part about the bus is even though we have assigned seats, if someone comes down with COVID who is near you, your child, they are going to have to self-quarantine. So it's one less variable you really need to worry about if you have the means and the ability to do so. Because we'd love not to have 45, 50 kids on a bus. The other piece with transportation is we are going to eliminate the guest ridership. You know, like hey, they're coming over after school, or if the baseball game is a little bit later. We're going to say no to extra riders on the bus this year, or at this time. Food service, again, very quickly. We anticipate running a fairly normal food service outside of some little tweaks. Obviously, the self-serve stuff that the kids used to do are going to be prepackaged. We're going to have things all wrapped up, ready for them to go. At the primary school, there's going to be 2 hot lines, or hot lunch, 1 cold lunch. At the intermediate school, we're changing a couple things, maybe not 5 options, maybe we'll cut down to 3 or 4. We're still kind of figuring that all out. But we do know at the intermediate school, all the lunch prices are the same. So regardless if you get the pizza or the sandwich or the American Classic, it's all going to be $3.40, because we don't want kids typing numbers in and stuff. We're going to put a system together that's contact free. It's like going through the drive-through. That is contact free with any touch pads or anything else. So we'll work with our food service to make sure that when a kid comes through the line at the intermediate school, they do have an opportunity for a la carte items, but ultimately they will have 1 lunch price that will be charged. At the primary school, again, we'll take care of that through all of our lunch counts, and then when they go to the lunch line, we'll just take care of all that self-numbering ourselves. Again, during cafeteria in the lunchtime, that would be a time where obviously kids can take their masks down for sure. We are going to 6 feet apart then. There is not going to be assigned seats. We don't anticipate that. We have 1 grade level eating at one time, and we're going to utilize our large room spaces. Here at the intermediate school, we're going to use our cafeteria, and then this side the gym. Remember, gym's going outside, hopefully outside of inclement weather. If they're inclement weather, it might be in here. Students will be spaced 6 feet apart during lunchtime, 1 grade eating at a time. So we've had to adjust some schedules. Yes?
Will they still have the same amount of time? I just have a kindergartner that's super slow, so I wasn't sure.
We have a little bit more time actually, so the lunch can be about 45 minutes. Kindergarten, that's about 45 minutes. Family goes back.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And we're at 40 minutes instead of 35 this year, so 20 minutes for eating, 20 minutes for recess.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, the kids who eat first are going to have to be patient here at the intermediate school.
One of the grades is eating.
One of the grades is eating first. And if you've ever been here at a lunchtime, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and particularly our boys are like, and then they're standing right out there. This time, again, we're going to have 5th and 6th will be kind of on the same schedule a little bit. Say 5th is first, 6th will be outside. So we're not going to let kids out. We're not going to let the 5th graders out until the 6th graders come all the way around, and we'll roll from over there. Yeah. Right. The question was there talk about having the kids eat in their classrooms? When we took a look at the opportunity to space kids out 6 feet with our cafeteria and the opportunity that we had in our gym, we wanted to get our kids out of the normal classroom environment to be able to do that, see different people, because many of our kids are going to be cohorted together, even at the primary school. They're going to be together a lot of the day. So if we can get them out intermixing with some other kids and ultimately out of that general classroom, that was a priority of ours. But it was a topic that we, and then worked with Mr. Denishine and worked with our principals to say, how can we make this happen such that they don't eat in the classroom? Because that creates a whole bunch of other things from a clean facility too as well.
Follow up on the line. So how many people are actually monitoring, like my second graders, 80 second graders? Last year I volunteered a lot, and there were like 2 adults, 2 staff members. I'm just curious if you're figuring out additional staff members or how you're going to possibly monitor 80 kids keeping their masks on because they're sitting, you know, because you're going to have one person's working with this, now you have 79 other kids.
Becca and I were talking about that today. Yep, about, hey, what's the staffing model? Where do we need to extend people's hours? Do we need to bring people in early to make sure that we've got that proper coverage from that standpoint? Now, especially early on in the year, it's going to be, let's get into the routine and things like that. We do know that approximately 30% of our kids eat hot lunch at the primary school. So if we use the second grade example. So ultimately, we can get the other 70% in there very quickly, get them settled, and away we go. But ultimately, we're going to have to take a look at the number of supervisors we have and make sure that they can be properly supervised. There's going to be a lot of training into this.
Yeah, and I just think that's a great point. Like the schools are having half the kids come through, so you can give them like a tutorial, like, hey, this is what it's going to look like, versus 80 kids rushing in and 3 adults trying to distribute everyone. I know for my child, she would love to have something with structure, knowing like what's her expectation, and where is she supposed to sit, and who's going to tell her, versus no, you gotta, be reactive instead of proactive. And I just want to, as a parent, be able to help articulate that well in advance.
Yep. And we certainly will, because there's a lot of things we practice during the year or before school starts, kind of before that first day, whether it be a safety drill, but ultimately we'll have to go into the cafeteria and explain this all to kids about how it goes before that first lunchroom day.
It would also help is, but when we have our back to school conferences, those individual setups for families and children, that's some of the things that we can help give to you. The schedule, what does that look like? With that plan, it'll come down to one-on-one situation instead of tuck and roll. But yeah, so that is planned for, it will help, especially, I think, all kids with the transition have a little bit of anxiety about student do. So the more that they can, preload them into that, so we'll give all that information, schedules, all those things that will come to you early on. I'll also have those post energy, seeing what that will look like at first grade, kindergarten, any of the classes.
How are we doing recess? That's our next one. Next up. So we are going to have recess every day. Grade levels will go out by themselves. We've had a big debate on how we handle recess. Truly, do you zone kids up? Do you say, it's like great Mrs. Krogman, your kids get the playground one day, and then, Mrs. Durant, she's not there anymore. Mrs. Clear. You got this area. We've decided right now, and kind of been talking to the other elementary schools across the area, is we aren't going to zone. We are just going to monitor the best we can and have kids play. An opportunity to get outside, run, and utilize all of the facilities that we do have. We're going to ask kids to wash their hands on the way out, wash their hands on the way in. We're going to place hand sanitizer stations outside as well for our kids. Again, just really try to encourage, obviously, all of the safe practices. Again, going back to the comments there's comment about we're going to have to teach kids to do this. We're going to have to model what's expected. If every kid could play soccer every day, it'd be great. Playing with the feet. We also know that that's not realistic. So our plan is to allow grade levels out at one time. It's approximately 85 kids per grade level to just have at it and have some fun. Now, in primary school, we also are going to do some scheduling tricks where there might be a grade level that's over at the intermediate school, utilizing some of those facilities as well. So taking a look at the schedules, and that's really where we'll continue to put sample schedules up so everybody can kind of see what does a day look like in the eyes of a said student as we go from there as well.
So let's say somebody gets COVID. We don't know who's playing with that reason. So is it going to be able to be in and try to say, yeah, I was playing with X, Y, Z. So we're just
Given the limited time, the CDC and the health department considers all of that incidental and indirect contact. So that's really where we're looking, that's where you hear about 20 minutes. And that's where it's all indirect. Believe it or not, hallway passing times. They have given every high school in America, so you can go send 500 kids out in the hallway. It's just like going to Walmart. Indirect. There's no, again, their research would say 15 minutes of 6 feet or less. So that's what we're monitoring. Yep. So we're just going to let them play. So when Waukesha County calls and says, hey, who's even around? We can say all that's been incidental here at school. That is the goal.
I just maybe on your resources to be able to do, but have you thought of any videos maybe for kids to be able to see, this is what the cafeteria will be like, this is what's going to be in the classroom. We can't come to back to school like this. It's terrible. The university starts early.
Yeah.
So, if there was something like that, my kids would be able to see this is kind of helping them be like before they get able to get it. But I also realize that might be a big resource thing, right?
I'll let Jay talk about that.
We plan on putting videos on the website, just so there's something there. It might be adults doing the modeling, but that's what we're gonna have to use, so. And I can act like a 5-year-old pretty well.
Okay, sure.
So the question was, are we able to make videos of these things in come back to school night or who come back to school night with their kids like to see they were once they started going to school? That is the question.
Thank you, Mary. The answer is yes, we are going to be making those videos, but it's also been talked about, hey, can we see what a sample lesson might look like? So we understand what this, this new virtual expectation of our staff is as we move forward to this well. Certainly can. Yeah, we want to have that modeling just as much as you guys do to help ease this transition. So September 1st, there is this idea about what's happening.
I did a hand washing before and after. Is there any thought or discussion of cleaning the play surfaces outside?
The question was around cleaning of play surfaces outside, because they're washing like in and out, but are we
Yeah, actually, we just bought 2 new type of sprayers, and these sprayers, we've got a generator that hooks up to it, so we are able to get outside and spray the equipment off and sanitize it. So that's what we can.
You know the frequency of that?
Pardon?
The frequency? You have an idea what your goal is to do, how often?
Is there a frequency goal of how often we do that?
We're working on that right now. I had a custodial meeting. Start talking about these things and scheduling numbers.
When we talk about the playground services, again, that's another time, but we do have the technology, we also have the generator and materials to do it. The question is the drive time on it as well. So we will be doing it periodically for sure. Again, as a feeder system, we talk about it, hey, are you going to be doing it daily? It's if we do hand washing and if we do all this the sanitation that we can, again, ultimately it's washing before and after is really the key, but we will be doing it periodically, certainly. But to say we're going to do it every day, we're going to focus inside the classroom. Every day for sure is where we're going to do all of our cleaning inside. That's where we do our Clorox 360s, our Titan sprayers. That is where we're really going to focus our time. Outside, we'll get to it. It all depends on if we all of a sudden do see a boost in it, we have to put that in our routine. We certainly will. Yeah.
So kids are going to eat first and then watch their hands go outside. This is a problem situation. Anywhere to wash their hands. If all one whole grade is going out at the same time, you're talking about they queue up 6 feet apart. You're talking about 2 live kids. Or they're going to bunch up and hand wash wrong over here.
So the question is around how can we schedule kids and use our facilities to accommodate 80 kids washing their hands at a time. Is that correct?
So one of the things is all our classes have washing stations in that primary. So that's one of the things is working with teams is the stagger of that, what that would like, not just all kids in line or wash their hands. We also have grade level identified classroom washing and bathroom areas. They will continue to use them. We have gone through and thought about what exits we use. If one group is coming in, the other group is going out, and how we do that easily. We have so many bigger transition. So we created that also with our teams and our specialists to make sure that those are scheduled staggered. We have lots of that. Like Ron talked about too, that's why the intermediate school playgrounds needed to be used during recess and at lunchtime. Because of that, we want to make sure that we have some other doors being utilized so we can see it out. I think one of the things as far as we can plan for this is going to be continually looking back at it and saying, is this work? Because this is not something that we've done before. So I think that we more the teacher, the staff, to say what more can we do, but it plans far. Thank you.
We're going to try to maximize all the time we have with really create routines and schedules to make sure that you don't have 20 kids just waiting. Because 20 kids times 20 seconds is going to take you a long time to get through there. It really, really is. So those routines and procedures will be critical as we think about moving forward into cafeteria and food service before recess, after recess. Okay, as we think about the future, timelines, obviously we're here today to continue to hear comments and concerns and questions, certainly. We do have an August 3rd meeting with the school board to continue to discuss and possibly say this is the recommendation at this time. We know that August 3rd gives only people about a month. We also know that the reality of things change fairly quickly as well. So that is why we are scheduling another meeting on August 17th to kind of finalize, see if there was any tweaks that could be made to the recommendation, the approval process. So those are kind of the two big meeting dates that we have upcoming. August 18th right now, we are targeting as the day for online registration, and we are trying to see if we can wait till August 18th to commit to have families commit to either the plan that's approved, and if an alternate plan is offered, for instance, if it's 100% virtual is offered, if the district decides to go to a soft start of 50%, because we need to start to plan for students who are going to be going 100% virtual. Right now, we anticipate, again, according to our numbers, probably about 10 to 15% of our students possibly choosing virtual, and that is across an entire school district. So I'm not sure if we're going to have the opportunity to create one whole class of fourth graders who want to go virtual. That means we would need at least 25% of our staff, or of our students and our families to go virtual. And right now, our data, and particularly when we start to cross-reference it with other Waukesha County schools, is between 10 and 15%. I'll share this out too, by the way, with everybody. So this will be on our website. I'll send it out as a parent update tomorrow. So, the other big thing that I wanted to kind of really emphasize is we have 9 days with our teachers before school starts. 9 days. And like I mentioned before, is a real big focus on that is the professional development into virtual learning, blended learning, because we know we're going to have students who are both virtual and face-to-face, and how do our teachers handle that? The one thing I also told them is we're going to try to practice. What does it mean to try to keep kids 6 feet apart? What does it mean to model direct contact, indirect contact? But ultimately, how do we continue to teach in this new methodology? We are discouraging small group learning. You know, usually we bring kids to the kidney shake table. For those of you who've been in our classroom, the teachers at the kidney shake table. Not right now. Not right now. It's going to be, how do I personalize with a child, personal instead of small group, it's going to be individualized. So, and we will continue to work with our staff, but we have 9 days to prepare them. We are very fortunate to have that kind of professional development opportunity for our staff. And then ultimately, August 26th is going to be our district open house. Okay, that is when we want you to come in. We are going to have scheduled times across the day, kind of like parent-teacher conferences. You know how you sign up for a time? That's what it's going to look like. You sign up for a time, come in and meet your teacher, drop your supplies off, put everything in your locker, just like you would, but it's going to be a staggered time. Instead of 5 to 7, it will be an 8-hour time frame. So if there's 20 students in a class, we can divide that across 7-8 hours, plenty of space. Network photography will be back to as well to take student pictures, and they've got all of their, we'll share all their safety protocols too as well with you, but open house will continue as normal. It's just going to be an extended time frame. Instead of the 2 hours, we're going to spread it out. We're going to kick that out at registration process about signing up for open house to be able to come on in and meet your teacher, drop your stuff off, etc. That's a really, really big thing. And then ultimately, September 1st, we roll. The
whatever that is, we are rolling September 1st. I did want to mention is we are going to have a small tweak to the student calendar this year too as well. When we took a look at as a mid-team and instructional team, we felt that we needed more time for our teachers to come into campus, to get them comfortable, to get them what they need. So we did take two student days out of the calendar to be able to accomplish that. Ron, when we think about, or I get the question, well, wasn't that going to affect all of our instructional minutes and things like that? Put it this way, in the snow case, you know how we cancel school and you hear about some schools, oh, we have to make up school days. We can have like 9 snow days. Because we've got a lot of minutes in our school calendar. So we'll continue to meet the requirements set forth by the state of Wisconsin, but we wanted to make sure that our staff are ready for your kids and that we weren't pushing on them too hard and there wasn't this panic. Believe me, there'll still be a little bit of panic. There will be, but to make them feel comfortable so when your kiddos come in whatever form that is, they're ready to go. So those 2 days we'll be making recommendations to the school board. There'd be a longer Thanksgiving break. There'd be a longer Christmas break. We could get out 2 days early. So all those things yet to come, but we start school for sure September 1. Yes.
The question around our school pilots available yet or not? So school supply lists are posted and they're out, they're usually done by the end of May, beginning of June. We did edit them already as a team at the primary to really help us with supplies we have with the team and the virtual. There was one thing that has changed from there for sure, is that we are not asking John to compare for any wipes, like the sanitizing wipes. So please don't buy those. There are some things going on here, but otherwise they are ready to go. So they are. That's actually
Hello, this is Larry. My understanding is ours are posted as well. Same thing, no Clorox wipes. John's got some new program going, so we'll be all set with that. It should be out on all the same list that the primary school has. The middle school one is at the bottom of that, so it should all be there already.
We'll double check that. Yeah, we'll make it clear. We'll make it more clear. Yeah, thank you. You can put that on the list. The one piece is that we continue to talk about, and this is where working with our instructional specialists, if there is something that your child needs for virtual learning, for instance, a whiteboard, we will supply it. We will supply it. So we're not going to ask you at the very end of it's like if there's something essential for virtual learning, we will make sure that that comes to you in the form of supplies.
Question regarding a survey that we did a few weeks back, specifically around the summer booster program. So I'd just like to better understand the decision making on that. It seems as though the majority of the families that wanted that, you had 35% of the families that didn't want it or weren't interested in it. But yet the decision was made, and the only reason on the communication that was given was it would be too difficult for staff and students to come back. My question is was there a percentage that the board or administration had in mind that was the go, no go? Or was that not even an option for doing it? It's just a question, a filler question. Because it seems as though the majority of the people were overruled by the majority.
Right. We were looking for a 75%, 3 out of 4 students coming through.
That should have been shared to make a better decision for all the families. I mean, to not share that doesn't give everybody the complete picture. That's wrong. Because you're not letting everybody have all the information they need. Withholding that's wrong.
Okay.
That's disappointing because we've got summer slide happening regardless. You know, CDC recognizes that as a real thing. As educators, you know that happens. And then you're virtual for the last 3 months of the year for 3 or 4 hours a day, max. And then to not be able to help our kids maybe overcome some of that, that's frustrating and disappointing on a whole lot of levels. It really is.
So the summer for those watching online, I'm hearing that there's some frustration around the question of the staff for a summer booster, and waiting if that for 2 weeks on booster or 1 week on booster, and kind of what the threshold is going to help make that decision. And with the concern about the slide, everything is virtual, this is an opportunity to bring them back sooner, why the decision not to do that.
Yeah, and not sharing all the information for the families to make that decision with all the information.
Sure, and withholding the idea that this is a 75% threshold and not giving information prior to.
Okay, that's fair. The other piece that went into it from it being very, very hard was when we already thought about how do we prepare our staff for a September 1 complete reentry. If we take 4 to 8 days out of the 9 or 10 that we had opportunity for, we really didn't feel like we would be as prepared for all of those times.
I get that.
So,
but there was millions of Americans that had to adjust to COVID in their jobs and in their functions and do different things and ramp up. And people did that. That's just life. It's difficult sometimes. You just have to grow with it and adjust to it. And I just don't think saying something is difficult is a reasonable reason for saying, no, it's just not reasonable. Life is hard. Jobs are hard. People lost their jobs, lost their houses, lost their businesses. And so we have a responsibility. I think everybody up here has a responsibility to help these kids, difficult or not difficult. We have a responsibility. We failed. And I want everybody to know I think that. And maybe I'm the only one in this room that thinks that, but I think we failed our kids on it. I really do.
we will be, and thank you for sharing that feedback. And it wasn't intentional to hide anything from anyone. We took a look at the big picture and where we wanted to be September 1st. And leading up to that, we know we're going to offer another virtual round of reading, writing, and mathematics here coming up towards the end of the month to fulfill that summer booster. It won't be in person, but we're going to be offering families another opportunity to jump into some refresher stuff. It'll be online, it'll be live, it'll be videos that are recorded from our specialists and things. So that's what's going to be forthcoming to replace that summer booster. And sign up will be coming later this week or next week for that too. But I completely understand and thank you for sharing that. A lot of things went into that decision because ultimately I was really hopeful for the summer booster. But when I stepped back and said, okay, we need our 75% threshold, we didn't. And then all the other things that we had to prepare our staff for, and then we had a virtual opportunity to possibly bring some of our kids in to be able to do that. That's where that decision was made came from. So thank you for sharing. Yes, and just because it's difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. I completely agree. I can't argue that point at all. Okay. All right. Well, we'll start here. Go ahead.
Hi. The 3 choices that you laid out in the beginning of tonight, the 3 different options, do we get to pick those, or is that going to be picked by the school board and then we follow into that plan?
So the question is who gets to decide which option to go for. We have been shown 100% in person, 50% in person, 100% virtual. Who makes that choice?
And in addition, if the parents get to choose and they choose one option, can they change that option if things change, or how fluid is that?
Yeah, so after somebody decides, the parents kind of opt into or out of different options.
So what I'm going to recommend to the school board is that, first of all, a family be able to choose 100% virtual option, almost at any time. Okay. Now, if you choose that, we're recommending if you choose that virtual option, we would really like you to stay there as long at the natural entry points at primary school trimester and at the intermediate school quarters. Now, that's completely out of our convenience because we just don't want kids. I'm just use a silly example. Oh, I'm going to go out of school. I'm going to go up north. It's hunting season, so I'm going to go up north. I'm going to go this week virtual, and then I'm going to jump. So we're trying to avoid that. So we really like in order for us to plan. So if we can plan accordingly, that would be great. We're recommending to the school board choose one of the options. Okay, either we're all in virtual, we're all in 50%, 50-50, a soft opening, or 100% in person. We have made the decision, again, it's up to the school board, to not give the parent option for 50-50, because that would just be really disjointed for even a family, but ultimately for students who come to school 2 days a week and are off for 3 days a week on purpose. Given our safety measures that we have in place, we really feel that 100% reentry is very, very viable. And also just the size of our school and this kind of from a teaching and learning standpoint, we just don't have the raw numbers to be able to offer those 3 options. We want option 2, right? We want an option either a 100%, this is where I would expect the board to be. If the board says we need to go 100% virtual, we're ready for it. But I would envision the board probably deciding on, do we go 100% or do we do a soft opening? With always keeping in mind that a family option is to go 100% virtual until, but you know, I say 9 to 12 weeks, but if something changes in your family, come on in. You know, we just don't want this chronic jumping in and out. So we'll continue to work with you, but ultimately it's your child and you know them best. And if all of a sudden you start virtual and you're like, hey, something's changed or this isn't quite working for me or my family, my child, come on back our way. We can have a conversation.
Okay, thank you. Kind of reverting back a little bit to the math conversation. Have you guys talked to any of the surrounding like daycares or preschools? I just asked because I have a son coming into 4K and he's been at since June and they don't wear masks there at all. They don't necessarily social distance in the classroom either. They keep the kids in like their own kind of wing, and we've not had any cases at all. So I'm not an expert, obviously, but are we considering that when we're thinking about putting masks specifically for me on a 5-year-old? And then also in addition to that, kind of thinking about flu season is coming up, not just COVID season. And do we at all view the mask as another germ spreader? I mean, you reference the Facebook, YouTube videos of these kids fleeing and stuff like that. But it's totally funny and we watch it, but it's also somewhat realistic. Like these kids are kids, and are we just spreading more germs?
So the questions are right from like masters, we talk to daycares or preschools or parents that have to wear masks and have those to find out their experience. And then also come flu season, what would be done for them for what are concerns for wearing masks and that is another way of
Right, and we have not talked to daycares. We have only talked to what we would call, secondary, K-12 schools. We haven't, but I can reach out to Weno and say, hey, what have you guys decided? What have you found effective and things like that? We have, and in my recommendation will be a consideration of, okay, what is age appropriate? And that's where we take a look at some of the information coming across, because we know that, touching masks and things like that can spread too. But we also know that masks, do other things that are positive too as well.
I know myself at the grocery store, like wearing a mask, and one day I was thinking about this whole coming back to school, and I counted the amount of times that I incidentally touched my mask, and I know you're not supposed to do that, but we're all humans, and I think I counted like 10 in a matter of 30 minutes. I can only imagine what my son was doing. He's probably grabbing the other kids' masks off his face.
Yep. All of that will be a consideration as we think about putting, because I don't want kids in masks all day personally. I think we can handle this at times when they're in closer contact with other students. Will be part of my recommendation. But and that's really where we've got to continue to think about it, and I'll continue to collaborate with other school districts. Are they saying, because, is it 10 and up? Take a look at second grade, because, some of the studies are like, hey, 10-year-olds spread it just like an adult, not so much younger. So all of that information will be going into our consideration too as well. Okay, I can, sure, no problem. Go ahead.
6-foot social distancing classroom, and then the teacher at the front. Are we gonna, is the expectation it's okay for the kids to take off the mask while social distance in class from a form of communication, and then also from the teacher? Or is it gonna be, no, you're at your desk, mask on?
The question was focused around, if I can summarize it, if our students are social distance throughout the classroom. do they have to wear masks, or is that a time when they could possibly unmask? First of all, again, right now, on July 27th, I don't want to caveat it, my recommendation would be following the CDC and the healthcare guidelines, where you cannot social distance, mask up. Okay, so to answer your question right now, my recommendation would be to, when you are 6 feet apart from an individual, you can unmask. And this is just stuff that
I think that's a big piece too. I mean, if you're at home, starting to instill that in children, right, no matter what the age are, it's good.
right.
That's why I want to think.
Yep. So that's going to be my recommendation. Again, when it focuses around when we're not 6 feet apart. So for instance, if the teacher, and I would envision this, if the teacher starts to walk around, after we're done, the teacher's going to be in front of the camera in their instructional bubble. And first of all, our teachers, we're going to ask them to wear a face cover, okay, which could be a shield. So we are ordering shields that look kind of like collars. They sit here and they go up. So our staff's pretty excited about that. So that way, well, they are. I mean, I think they're very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. It looks like a welder, go up and down. But ultimately, we want to make sure that our students, in particular, some of them need to see the teacher's lips. So we want to make sure that we can accommodate all the students and yet still remain in a safe environment with our staff as well. So we will have. I personally, I'm not going to recommend just an all mask all day. I think that's
What's the recommendation? Right, like, so, I mean, who's going to make that call? If you're saying that's
I'm going to be recommending it to the school board, because those are certain things that we put student handbooks and really engage with our families.
That's what I'm asking, establishing guidelines.
Yep.
You realize that the talk to the actual.
Yep.
So, like, whenever there are kids with the phone, it's not a put down, national time, whatever the scenario would be, we know exactly what those parameters are.
The question was, are these guidelines going to be very well spelled out? They certainly will. And that's where we're going to need a lot of parent support, because ultimately, if we do have a mask requirement, we do have a student who refuses to comply with those, we will take discipline action and say, hey, we're really sorry, until you can comply, we have an alternate educational environment of 100% virtual. Be able to do that.
Your survey done 9 days before the school starts, is that enough for them? What have they done?
Sure. The question was, what kind of input and feedback have we gotten from our staff regarding the preparation for the 2021 school year? How are they feeling about it too as well? Last week we had 2 separate staff meetings that people could attend. One was a face-to-face here at Merton Intermediate. The other one was an online Zoom meeting. The first one lasted about an hour and a half. The second one lasted about an hour. We were able to address all of their questions. We have literally an 8 to 10 page document with every one of their questions that they had on it. When we started to talk more about masks for students, they get it. Because obviously that's what they're hearing kind of from some of their organizations and some of their professional learning networks about, the importance of masks as it comes to school and things like that. They also know that they need to make that personal connection. So that's why they were excited about the shield, because they didn't see their face. It was really important. It seemed really important to our staff at that time too as well. The piece about no small group, or limited small group learning, bringing 3 kids to a kidney-shaped table, it looked like there was a sigh of relief to say, oh, okay, that you're not going to expect me to do that. The biggest anxiety is the virtual part. They're not trained in virtual, and that's why we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about what happens if one child or 2 children are virtual in your classroom. How do I accommodate that child as well as the other 14 or 15 who are in my class? How do you make those students feel part of the class? How do we make sure that those students can go eat lunch with your friend virtually? So those are the structures. And the other piece that we're really trying to squash about, what is their responsibility? The responsibility of Ron, do I have to do? Am I going to have to ask every kid that have a fever? Am I going to have to monitor all this? Am I the one who's going to be going to parent about this? No, we are going to be doing that. Their biggest fear, just like mine is are they going to have to self-quarantine? Can I continue to work if I'm self-quarantined? for whatever situation, whether it be personal situation or professional situation. Because like I talked about, our teachers, we are trying to put systems in place, and we will put systems in place that they have not considered direct contact for 15 minutes or less. We are going to have staff, though, in particular some students who work with special needs, or some staff who work with special needs, that there is going to be that close contact. That's going to have to happen. And we'll continue to work with those staff too as well. Do I feel 9 days is enough? I guess I'll move it over to back in days to like see other feelings or 9 days is enough.
I think the staff overall feel like we're running out of time. If you're watching him, but no matter what, we gotta start somewhere. So I think that staff, getting on the meetings, check-ins, like that. We have like staff, staff right now, like 18 minutes. Just trying to figure this all out. And I think like everyone, we are working on the plan, trying to get some structures, and we're not going to be enough. I think so. We gotta start. We can't just linger in the what if situations, because those also causes all. So I think they're ready to go, and I know that I heard the team, my secretary team say, I just want to start working on this. Let's go. Let's get in here. So I think there'll be some bumps and hiccups along the way, and we'll work through them. Nothing's going to be like that ideal situation that everyone knows how to do. We get close contact, inspiration that we all want to be children. This is just not that time right now, but we got to do more so trying to focus on that.
I think the other thing is they want to know that they're supported. We always like teachers to take those safe risks, which kind of sounds weird to say in this particular situation, but we want them to see that we have expectations for them. We can talk through those expectations. I know Beck and I have met with grade levels, we've met with our specialist teams, just to talk about here's what it might look like as Ron said, July 27th. This is what we know right now. It could change later on tonight, it could change tomorrow. So we have to make sure that we're flexible with our staff, we're flexible with our students, and that you guys help us stay informed of how your children are feeling at home. I think that's the one part of the equation you don't always think about is how does it feel when you get home from school? I remember how it used to be when I got home from school. I was either really excited or really bummed out depending on how the day went. So continue to have conversations with your children about how their day goes, so that we can make the necessary adjustments to make their days better.
So 9 days is a challenge to find another school district who's offering 9 compensated days for a staff member. Yeah, we're really excited about being able to support that.
One other consideration in addition to masking for classrooms, we're talking about so I sit on the planning task force for Carroll University, where we're looking at this before, right? And one of the things we've really been looking at is the buildup in the room over now. And so how thinking about HVAC systems and can we open windows, we have whole buildings, cutting windows so that we make sure we have ventilation in rooms where we need to have fans. And I wonder if that's a part of how can we get air moving, because this is the part that gets the least news, right? Is how can we talk about the masks that we don't talk about.
Yes, it's certainly, and I'll turn that over to John. He can talk about all our HVAC systems that are up to date and proper airflow and things like that.
Actually, there's controls. So we do have the ability to bring in more fresh air to rooms as much as we would like. This would be nice if the weather was beautiful and fall here and pop all the windows open, but that does affect areas that don't have outside windows.
So we do have the systems in place, and actually working with I actually asked Ben Jones last week to say, do you want both? Do you want windows open and all of the ventilation systems that we have to make sure it's the 10 CFMs? And we continue to work with, you're going to hear more about ionization. You're going to hear more about the Merton 13 filter system. It's a shame that we know all this, but we will continue to investigate that too as well. So proper airflow is something that we've always prided ourselves on, that means our air quality, and we'll certainly continue that too as well.
My son's what's the band? Are you band would be an option in so often in summer school?
Yep. So the question was, is what are we doing with 5th grade band, particularly also, or summarize that in all things. Ultimately, that's something that we continue to watch. We did change our requirement. We used to have a requirement in 5th and 6th grade to have band or choir. And if there's 2 subject areas in schools that have yet to kind of still continue to be talked about as much, one is choir. For sure is choir, but band, we do have recommendations from a major study that came out of Colorado, and specifically about the distance, things travel, and spit valves, or all those folks that understand brass instruments and things. But what we have done is we have separated bands. We're going to do brass and woodwind and percussion and things like that, so we've been able to separate those. So we're still going to offer those. We are not requiring them. We didn't want to put a situation for a family who didn't feel very comfortable if I wasn't going to be in band, but I really want to be in choir, because of all the possible safety precautions. So we are going to offer band. We are going to have them all 6 feet apart. Trombones will be 9 feet apart, because that's what the study showed. They're all going to get, I don't know what the technical term is. What are they called? Puppy pads. Puppy pads. Puppy pads that absorb spit. Sorry, I was a tuba player. You do that. Trombone. All of us are shaking our heads. They were all our brass players. So we are taking the proper precautions. We do want to continue to build that idea of fine arts and music. So we want kids to continue to pursue that. We're just doing it a little bit different. We're not going to put 50 kids in the band room. Can't, because I can't get them 6 feet apart. So we're going to set opportunities for kids and small groups. And right now, I can't tell you whether or not we're going to have a band concert from November. We'll worry about that later. As it relates to choir, though, so band is kind of the woodwinds and things like that. We got that. Choir, remember those collar shields? We're going to have collar shields for the kids to help that projection. Ultimately it'll be muffed a little bit, but again, it's another safety precaution that we are bringing for our choirs in all grades 5th through 8th, and we're pursuing what we need to do for grades 5K through 4th grade as well. So band will continue to go. Is there a summer school option?
I don't think there's a band summer school option. I wanted to mention choir as well. We're actually taking over a little theater for our choir program because that's a much bigger area. So Ms. Schwingle, who's our new choir director, actually is really excited about taking over that room. So we'll still be able to have our choir, more students in there, but band's going to be tricky just because of how the setup happens to be.
So I don't think we're having the virtual summer school. I don't think there was the interest to be able to do that.
So if kids get into flu season and they have a slight cold, is that a 14-day quarantine unless you have a negative COVID? Is that you send home till they feel better? What are we doing with kids that have a cough or a cold, but maybe not COVID, but we don't really know?
So guidelines keep changing.
The question was, what are we, how is the school going to handle the normal cold and flu season so that if a child continues to exhibit flu-like, cold-like, COVID-like symptoms, how long do they need to be out of school? Assuming they get a negative test. If they go get tested. If they go get tested. Correct, if you're recommending. Yep.
So the guidelines continue to change on that. Right now, if Josh is full, no fever, you're still recommending out of school for 10 days. If you were to have a fever, it's 24 hours. They are moving down from 3 days to 10 split, 10 days for symptoms, 3 days without fever. That's going down to 24 hours. We're also starting to lean towards facing returning symptoms, the asymptomatic, not having symptoms versus just flat out state of days. Don't think that's happening in Wisconsin yet. Wisconsin hasn't changed anything, and our numbers are local departments. So the CDC recommends people like to down, and then I know that we work more locally with what's recommended. So yes, they will still be out of school. The absenteeism this year is going to look different. Unfortunately, we're going to get calls from someone that might not have gotten calls for last year. And unless until that changes, those are just going to be the criteria we have to look at.
That is our concern. That's a concern from our staff. When we go back over to the staff standpoint, this is Ron, we all go to work. Sick, ill, we used to battle through it. You're good enough to work, continue to perform at a high level. What are we going to do when a teacher is still battling these symptoms that normally they come to work with. And now they're still good enough to work, so now I'm going to be typing them in virtually, and yet I need a substitute teacher. And that's why number one is we need your help with substitute teaching. We'll get to that in a second.
If I keep my son home, he's got a cold, I keep him home, but he's still good enough. I think I would send him, can he hop on virtually that day?
Oh, yes. If we have children that are sick, that either exhibit one of those symptoms, the question was, is if my child is sick at home, for whatever reason, can they jump into the school virtually? Definitely. Every day of the week, they can jump in there because we are pretty much solid that there will be students who will be virtual every day for a period of time. Yep, you still can call. Well, you can, I will still work on that protocol, because if you're working from home, according to the DPI and according to the state of Wisconsin, you're still working, because we've got those waivers going and things like that too. So I think that's more of a communication to school, because if we expect, little Johnny to come through the door and he's not. So yeah, just to call and say, hey, Johnny's staying home today and he's gonna jump on virtually. Okay, thank you. I'd say that level of detail we'll have all worked out. Correct. And that's where we will have, and that's why it's going to be an opportunity. The question was, what happens if the student is very sick and can't go on to virtual? Everything's going to be posted to Google Classroom, because remember, we're pretending everything's virtual. So everything will be there, but we also know that, hey, take the day, come back tomorrow, and we'll get back at it just like if you were to come to school and things like that. Yeah. Sure. Nope. If you need a mask, the question was, will schools supply masks? The Department of Public Instruction and the Department of Health has given us 1,500 masks. Okay, they're white. We also have, John, we have 10,000 masks on campus, approximately. So if your child needs a mask, we have masks to give out. We will have these at open house. They are washable. We also are looking into, obviously, we've got some Merton Mustang stuff, and we've got other masks that we're going to hand out to our staff first. But it might be an opportunity to jump in and get some of that. But yes, we will have masks supplied, and we've got the disposable ones, or this cloth one here is washable, and we do have one per child. If we need two, we actually probably have two per child close to it. Yep. Correct. Yeah, if someone happens, the mask breaks, we will have extra masks in all of our room. They won't be as fashionable as maybe the one they like, but it will be, this kind. Correct. Yep.
One question I have about videotaping and going virtual, are there any safety or privacy concerns with sort of the privacy? Let's say you have a behavior disruption in your classroom, now that tape, correct? And now it's out there, or how do we make sure that that is not shared with the world?
Correct. Yes, and that's really where we're going to have to do some make sure to do some common sense with that too as well. We do not anticipate using these. I'm sorry. The question was, I forgot about that. The question was, do we have any concerns about videotaping, recording, and placing videos on Google Classroom? Do we have any privacy concerns? Yep. First of all, we do have concerns. We do, and we feel that we're going to do the balancing test, and we are going to work with our staff to say, hey, if there was a disruption that identifies a child in some way, let's figure out what we can do with that. We don't anticipate using these as student records. So from a behavioral standpoint, we won't be using it. We'll just use the preponderance of evidence if something happens in the classroom from that standpoint. But we do understand that what we're videotaping, the recorded part should just be the teacher. Okay, so this is where we're going to be working with our staff in front of the camera, saying, okay, this is my instructional bubble, because I'm on camera, and this is something that we're going to have to teach into. That's the only piece that will be recorded, is that live teaching the mini lesson, just in case we've got a student who's ill, just in case we have a virtual learner who's unable to make it that day for whatever reason. That's the stuff that's going to be recorded. The other things will happen live. For instance, if I come and work with the child as a teacher, and I'm working with the child on the camera, that won't be recorded. That won't be recorded. Nope. We're very aware of all the privacy from a special education standpoint, to a discipline, to a referral. Yep, we continue to work within those guidelines, but ultimately, if we have something that's questionable, we won't be posting it. And then we'll have to find a different way to get that information out. Good question. Yeah.
When we got we already have a shortage of them, and people will be out and going to whatever it is. What's our backup plan? In the past, it was been that 2 classes go in the same classroom. I'm wondering what you guys think you guys come up.
The question is from a substitute teacher, what is our backup plan? What's our plan if in fact we can't find enough substitute teachers to man face-to-face school if we go that route, if that's chosen to go for us? First of all, that's why our plea is we need as many substitute teachers as possible. We're going to be utilizing our entire staff. And when I say entire staff, our instructional assistants, we're going to be working with those who can become a substitute teacher to get them their substitute license. We are looking at hiring 2 building subs to make sure that we, have 2 people on staff at every day to make sure that we can help balance that. Just take a couple of those variables out. That is what's going to shut down schools. Is if you don't have substitute teachers or if you don't have a staff, because in the past, like was being said, we would take 2 classrooms. If there wasn't one teacher, we split the kids up. But I can't split the kids up wide, 6 feet. So we can't do that. So that is why we are hoping to build from a parent network. People say, Ron, what can I do to help? You really want to help, become a substitute teacher. That would be outstanding. Or a substitute instructional assistant, substitute custodian, or if you want to come work. We're always looking for custodial help, especially in the middle of the day. That would be great. In particular, we're looking for a lunchroom, primary school lunchroom custodian for about 3 hours every day. So those things that we're continuing to build. I've got another phone call with teachers on call to say how can we continue to build a repertoire, but we know that there's been a shortage before. And then when we take a look at our substitute teachers, who's typically substitute teachers? Retired teachers who fit into a category of a possible high need area to avoid, big gatherings and little kids and things like that too. So that is our biggest fear. And so when all of a sudden we are building and all of a sudden we say we need to go 2 weeks virtual, and that's a local decision. That could be a decision made by myself or the school board of Waukesha County and the state of Wisconsin. Be ready for it. We need to shut down school for a week or whatever it is because we don't have teachers. That's the reality. That's our fear. Biggest fear.
So masks are masks, not all out of our buildings, but if we have our kids masked in the majority of the day, we can go with the teacher or always have them separate at a time. That's going to keep our teachers safer so that we can have our kids get out of our house every day.
Right. And that's where it's one of those things that it's stay safe and stay open. It's an inconvenience. And that's where I really like to think about and really work with a plan about what makes sense that's safe for teachers, because I will tell you, we're going to be asking them, because ultimately we're asking for our staff to commit to coming back to us. We need to know what their personal situation is. I'm not asking for medical information, but I'm asking, do you need to go utilize COVID FMLA? Because of childcare, because of medical, or because of whatever it is. By the way, we are offering free on-site childcare, school-age childcare for our staff, so that they can continue to teach. So they don't need to worry about, in my case, Kate Russ, what's Kate Russ doing? If I want Kate Russ over here to be after school program, I have a spot for our staff to put them at so they can continue to work. But we have a question on there that says if masks are optional compared to if masks are required. And we have a high level of susceptibility that they want masks on kids as much as possible. That's my opinion.
So with the tracking system, if we are wearing masks on the bus and we're wearing 6 feet away, there's sources of time with it, so the management masks and washing them.
According to the CDC, they don't care if there's plexiglass or a mask on. If you are within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes, you qualify for quarantine. The question is if you have proper safety precautions in place, such as masks, such as hand washing, such as even plexiglass. The answer to that is, according to the CDC, they just say 6 feet, 15 minutes. If you meet that criteria, you need to self-quarantine from a direct contact standpoint. So, Yep. The question was, how are we going to track kids? That's why we're going to have assigned seats on buses. That's why we're going to know when the baby children get picked up. So if it's less than 15 minutes on a bus route, you're fine. you are fine on a bus if it's less than 15 minutes. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's completely 100% safe, right? Don't get me wrong there, but it's not a direct trace. So you're not going to get the phone call. Oh, we'll have assigned seatings in the classroom. We'll have that too, so that'll be something that, you know, when kids come in, I think back in the it's usually somewhat of a assigned seats anyway. Everybody kind of just sits there. The bus is something completely different. But we'll have assigned seats in times that we, so that if the CDC comes and says, take prove it, here you go. And that's why we have our teachers tracking small group or individual conferring sessions too as well. And that's why we have an instructional bubble. That's why we feel that the plan that we have in front of us is going to be a stay safe, stay open, so that our kids can continue to come to school, so that our staff can continue to come to school, and that we can continue to be what it is for your home.
What's the morning or afternoon school starting, drop off, what's the next scenario?
So when the kids get here in the morning, they're gonna go right to their homerooms. Our teachers will be monitoring hallway and their classroom at the same time. So we want them in their classrooms as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, we have a staggered dismissal. So 5th grade students, there's 2 exits they can go out of. They'll be leaving at a predetermined time. I don't have that memorized yet. 6th grade will be leaving either from the boiler room door or the main entrance. And then we have 7th and 8th grade as a staggered dismissal as well. So we're trying to have the buses filled from oldest to youngest. So our 8th graders are going to be the first ones up, and they're also starting 5 minutes earlier. So we've got an adjusted schedule that really doesn't impact when the kids are normally dropped off. So normal time the doors open is at 8:40, but if our kids start being dropped off at 8:30, our staff is ready to be chaperoning in the hallways and moving people along so they're not congregating unnecessarily.
At primary level, we have the standard just come on into the building, just like we were bringing out, drop off in the back. We will have all of our staff parked in the back lot to allow for the 4K drop off. I know that's been challenging since I've been here to see how do I get my child picked up with a 4K parent. So that front will be for all visitors in the park and allow that to be open to that. So dropping off though will be just typical, kind of like having them drop off in the back, 5K through 4th grade. And then they'll come through the back doors by the gym, and they'll just go directly to the cubby, and their classroom starting at 8:30. So the doors will open before that. Before 8:30, I do not have supervision on staff happening, so please just either have a car or try to find it. And then the same thing, similar to what Dave just said, as the experts here, we have classroom teachers assisting students for different exits, but we're all going to be on the back playground where you can either walker, pick-upper, or a beaker. That's where your families can be in the back of the school and we'll come there. That will be our plan, and the front will be the exit to the buses. So we're staggered out of different doors, but also with the teacher helping assist and walk things out. Each grade level.
We're going to get in and get out. Truly, get in, get to your place where you need to go. And for our older kids, I think it's a bigger deal. You know, they want to talk, and unfortunately, that's where the supervision and the structures are going to be in place to say, okay, time to get in, let's go. You can go sit down in your assigned seat and start talking to people 6 feet apart.
So, since we're between like the 2 options of being 100% face-to-face and also 50% of the, learning and then virtual learning too. And then like not having kids in the hallways a lot. Our kids going to have a lot of like living out of their backpacks where more of their supplies will be in the backpack. So when it comes to especially like the open house, is it something where we're going to be dropping off all of their school supplies, or are we going to get a list from the teachers to say, no, these are things that you always need to keep in your backpack because we don't want you out in the hallway as much. So maybe a communication from the teachers for that.
Yeah, the question was, kind of a supply storage. Are kids going to be living out of their backpacks a little bit more? Is there going to be supplies that are going to be highlighted as please take home every day, possibly? And I guess the answer to that is yes. We are going to be asking, for instance, during those we're trying to eliminate the number of transitions that kids have that are close to each other. So when we think of working with that intermediate in particular, yeah, take your class stuff before, when you go to your first hour class. So your second hour and your third hour. So we're going to ask kids to plan ahead. We are going to ask kids to kind of not share supplies unless it's absolutely necessary, like bathroom lids, things like that where we have to share a little bit. But everybody's going to have their own markers. For instance, I just think of 5K. When we all went into 5K, and there was a bucket of markers. Not anymore. Not anymore. Everybody's going to have more of their individuals. So that's something that we'll have to really work with our teachers on to say, hey, what goes home, or if it's kind of like keeping a pair of snow pants at school. Do you have a pair at home and do you have a pair at school? So those are all kind of individual family discussions too as well. But we'll continue to work with our staff, and that's a really good point, to make sure that we highlight in particular, either at open house or sometime earlier, what are the supplies that might be needing to be doubled or possibly transported to and from school every day. Sure. The question was when we do have to share supplies such as physical education, ball, or in art class, some of those things. The answer is we are going to rely on an awful lot of hand washing, and when we can, when we take wipes to those things, when it's appropriate. For instance, if we've got 20 balls, that a class was using, when Mrs. Monson say, all right, guys, let's grab a wipe and wipe these down, and away you go. So we just really, what the guidelines that we're utilizing is just washing before, washing after, and try to avoid all the other stuff that goes in between there. But yes, so that's when we talk about working with our physical education department and working with those state associations, that's pretty much what they're recommending, so that we can continue on in those curriculums.
The intermediate school, will they be changing classrooms, or will the teachers be moving to track? And if so, how do you see the kids moving? And then secondly, electives, are we doing them?
So I'll start with the election question. Yes, we are doing those. That'll happen at registration time. So that'll all be that process will occur then. Band and choir options, but we have other electives as well. I should shave because this is messing up with my mask here. Anyways, and then our students will be moving from class to class. They definitely will. We had talked about wiping down tables and chairs when they move from one class to the next. So Johnny takes his wipe, takes care of his chair. And then we're washing hands as much as we can in between. So teachers will stay in the classroom and the kids will move.
So we are looking at working with John and his department, making sure we've got the wipes, so that we're wiping that down. The biggest question we get is how do we run science lab and language arts group? And that's really where we kind of got to, okay, we're going to try the movement of the kid into the teacher's classroom, with wipe down and stuff like that. So we've got all sorts of ways.
So this question is a little out of left field here, but I'm asking for a friend who can be here because it's on vacation. If we're forced to go 100% virtual by the governor or county, what is the administration and what is the board doing from a budgetary standpoint to protect the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars that being spent wisely?
Yep. So the question was, is if in fact we were forced into a 100% virtual situation, what is the board and the administration doing to protect the dollars that goes with the taxpayer dollars and the funding that we get to make sure it's spent wisely during the COVID time, during the shutdown time?
Will there be a reduction in headcount?
Yep.
Teachers, where I'm not picking on gym teachers, but probably don't need a gym teacher for 100% virtual.
Okay.
Parents can tell the kids just go play outside. To cleaning the physical properties, stuff like that. What are you doing?
That's a great question. So we are, first of all, our teachers cannot be furloughed. They have a 195-day contract. It's a legal document that says in state law that we cannot reduce their number of days or reduce their pay without renewing the contract, and that has to happen the previous year. So teachers are protected from furlough. Now, when we take a look at our other educational staff who are not engaged with children, I've had this conversation with John, Director of Buildings and Grounds, yesterday, Friday, we had the conversation about furloughs. If we are not cleaning if we don't have students here, we don't have cleaning to do. So we have talked about then we would take a look at, you know, the projects or whatever, but ultimately if that's their key role, they would not be coming to move furlough. The other individuals, we would take a look at and say, how do we get them part of our educational environment? And I know back in the day, we utilized about every person under the sun that we possibly could into the educational program. We will be much more prepared right now to make sure that our instructional assistants, all the way from our administrative assistants, what can they do to be part of the educational process as we look forward to moving forward if we have to go 100% virtual. The piece is we just also need to be sensitive. We know that when we're reopen, we want those people here too. So when we take a look at the individuals who we know have a direct correlation to in class, those individuals, and we started talking about furloughs and make that aware to say, we don't have work for you because your core function is to clean the building, and if that doesn't exist, then it's not there. From a transportation department, we do have a contract with those individuals. You pay the contract minus plus wages and fuel. Food service is contracted, so that's somebody else. So we don't pay any food service outside of any food service that is taken in. So for instance, if we are offering, we obviously are going to continue to offer lunch like we did before, that would be a district expense. But ultimately our food service provider has cut back enough to monitor that, hey, we're only making 200 lunches, we're not making 600-700 lunches too as well. So we already are making the appropriate steps and preparing for it. In fact, we are having critical conversations with the people who probably are most at recognizably furloughable, and so those people are fully aware of it. But yes, we'll continue to really look at that.
Maybe a little bit out of field as well, but obviously there's been a lot of time consideration to how to deal with COVID and school and actually with that aspect. But putting these measures in place, which has been very thorough and how to talk through this, but what other measures have been put in place as well as the academic health and the mental health of our kids that are needed here learning in this new environment? And that's a big concern of a lot of
the question was is what new supports or what systems are going to be in place to really support the students' social, emotional, and the mental health and their emotional and physical well-being as we enter into this new age, and they've been off for 6 months. Right. So one
at primary level, like I actually have a different last year, we did a lot of in-depth learning, growing, have a large team around social health, and not only for students, but also for staff. This year we'll launch that. It's called Second Step for our district. That will be shortly, all the grade, which will be part of the schedule that you'll see whether it's virtual or not. And that really builds that relationship. Also, the work that we've done with restorative justice and some of those practices as well. I will tell you that I think from the primary lens that this is the #1 issue that I hear from our teachers, our staff, saying, how am I going to get a job to know how much I care about them when I have to 6 feet apart? I can't just go out and put them, and you automatically fall in love with them. And so I think that is something that primarily really talk about, spoken to, and also work on as we come together as well. I know teachers do the best job ever at that, and just know that 6 feet distance will cause for a lot more incidental communication rather than large group comes together, personal. There are some things not putting place for that, morning meetings and those small groups, even if they're virtually or how time that we can get together. That's why also I think Ron talked about the signal of our classrooms for play and some of those other structures that have to be in place to prioritize. As families, I will tell you, and as a mom, this is my biggest concern is how do I continue to have my child see and hear and just be a kid, because we are putting a lot of adult issues and adult concerns on our children. One thing I would say as a parent as well is the way we approach this, and we'll run and we're talking to our children, will be the way they understand it as well. So whenever I can, I'm going to do rah-rah, even though in the back of my mind, oh, no, so just remember that's some of the things that we have in place.
And I just wanted to add on to that. We have the same program starting here. It's a new program, but the teachers are talking a lot about how they can. They're looking for ways to connect with kids that are going to be that might be different than what we've had in the past. So just coming up with different ideas. I know our teachers did a great job of reaching out to the kids. We had some teachers that went and did instruction on the porches. We had our band director doing band lessons in driveways. I mean, all of these different things where we're making connections with kids. Our teachers' biggest concern is your kids, and not just their academic health, but their emotional health as well. And also realize that this is something brand new for every single one of us in this building tonight. And we're doing the best we can to try and meet the needs of our kids and our staff and our families. So if there's anything that you feel that we're falling behind on, don't hesitate to reach out to Becca or myself or to Ron or any of us up here so that we can have a conversation face to face or via video call, whatever it might be, just to keep us in the loop of those things. So the mental health of our kids is paramount, and how we help them come back to school is going to be a determining factor for how successful they are and how successful we are.
Let's take 2 more questions. Yeah.
So, should have said it's really
Right. The question is, what is the communication if someone were to contract COVID, and how would people find out about that, and what would be the communication system? Obviously, we're going to be following every guideline and procedure that's possible to be able to do that. Kids are smart. Parents are smart. All of a sudden, hey, Russ, it's 2 weeks behind the video. You know, something happened to Hayden, more than likely with that too. So we will, and this is what I want to stress, we will communicate with you as much as we possibly can, but for sure, we will communicate with you as parents if your child has been in direct contact with a child who has a confirmed case of COVID. We are required, Waukesha County may reach out to you. Waukesha County is supposed to tell us, because we know that it's real. I've done it. I've sent my kid sick, right? We all have. This year it's got to be a little different. And that's where we have to work with the county, and we need to protect those we need to protect the privacy of Hayden Russ if he does get COVID. I can't tell, hey, Hayden got COVID. You know, and all of a sudden, Hayden isn't in school for 2 weeks. He's virtual. Kids are going to start to figure that out. We are going to be putting things in place, though, and this is our biggest thing, is how do we maintain a strong social emotional environment, knowing that children are going to be bouncing back and forth from virtual to face-to-face, to blended, whatever it might be. We've really got to be alert of that too. And that's something that we're really going to crack down hard on, is this idea that we're all in this together. We hear that all the time. It's a cliche, but ultimately from a school standpoint, you're 1 day away from it happening. Because and most of the time it's not because of, and hopefully it's not because of something that happened at school. We're putting those proper protocols in place. But we all know we have things that happen after school, including our staff, things like that. So, good question. One more question, then we'll end. Sarah?
Ideally, we as parents should educate our kids on how to wear them properly, but is the school going to do something, universally to make sure all kids know what to do?
Yeah, well, the question was, is the school going to prepare kids to kind of talk about the proper way, put on a mask, wear a mask, try to avoid this? The answer is yes. Masks are becoming pretty universal now that, there's directions from the CDC about how to do it, and we can model that. We certainly can. So that's all those living up and trying to build up to that September 1st date about how do we give this information to our families so that they can practice, so that their kids can be successful when they come to school. Now, it's getting very, very difficult, and I think, and this is where a lot of us will continue to practice, because as we take a look at the private sector and other businesses, pretty soon it's going to be very difficult to go anywhere without a mask. So I think, and we're seeing a lot of little ones and things, and that's another opportunity. And particularly, and it goes back to, are we going to be supplying masks or something? If there's a opportunity if you need a mask from school, please let us know. If you want to start practicing the white mask or a free fly, whatever it is, just let us know, and we can get those to you so you can practice as well. So, last one. Yeah.
obviously, for us, and then, so thank you for that.
Team effort. It's been a lot of people. The school board has been very active with a lot of communication and their thought processes too as well, as we move forward there too. So ultimately, I just like to say that please stay informed, ask questions. If you do want to help at all, again, substitute teachers, you need an associate's 3-year bachelor's degree. Let us know. There's substitute teacher training. We can train you on the fly. We are looking for substitute teachers as we move forward too as well. So, and as usual, we are here. If you are not getting my weekly updates, please see me, and we'll make sure you get on that list. But we just want you to stay informed. Make whatever decision you want to. If there is feedback you'd like to share with the school board, obviously you can just say, hey Ron, can we forward this to the school board? I certainly can do that too as well. It's a lot easier to just forward it to me, and then I can take it to the board too as well if there's something that you want them to be aware of. But all their information is on our website, and they have been very, very active, asking very, very good questions. You couldn't have gotten all this level of detail because their parents, their business people, they know what questions to ask and what they're doing in their own lives as well. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming on out, and thanks for everybody that joined us virtually. Thank you.
I'll work with you around. If you want to ask questions, we'll be here.